Are you interested in knowing a very simple and effective way for not only revitalizing yourself through proper hydration, but also encoding the cells of your body with your deeper intentions? So you can basically manifest the things you need with an action simple as this. After spending 12 years as a professional water engineer, 20 years on the spiritual path, and 4 years living on the island of Bali, witnessing the power of water ceremonies, I have a rather unique and informed perspective on the power of water that I'd like to share with you in this video. It's a 6-step process that I have been crafting for years that will help you create what I call regenerative, pre-industrialized water. And the reason why it's pre-industrialized is because what you'll learn is that all the water we have on the face of this planet, unless it's in a deep aquifer, has been exposed to radionuclides through nuclear weapons testing in the 1960s or aerosol-borne contaminants. So even springs and natural water sources aren't as pristine as we would hope for. Because personally, I'm on a quest to find the most regenerative, hydrating, and spiritually supportive water possible and share it with everybody that watches this channel, because I really love you guys. So I decided to do this video after receiving tons of requests from my audience. People wanted to know what I was doing with water after I shared some unique experiences. I shared how I healed effectively a very painful autoimmune disease that I had for 2 decades with water and quantum rebalancing, which is an energy work technique that I use. Also to how to maintain a very youthful glow. I'm well over the age of 40, but my skin still looks really good. I used to have very poor skin growing up. When I started drinking good water, my skin quality improved. So if you're looking for better skin, drinking the right water can definitely help with that because it actually hydrates you. And then finally, the other day I just posted, and this is really where things blew up, on how I had a massive pang of heartburn. I don't usually get heartburn, so I didn't have any antacids in the house, but I basically went and grabbed a 10-ounce glass of this special water that I'll talk about in this video, and I got rid of the heartburn naturally in seconds. So you see, water is really cool, and if you dial it in and learn how to enhance it like I'm going to be talking about, you can get some pretty amazing benefits for your health, your spiritual health, your physical health. And I definitely think water is one of the most mysterious and, unexamined, not fully explored substances on the face of our planet. So it's no surprise that it's also one of the most targeted by the control systems on this planet. If you look at the quality of the tap, the kind of water that comes out of our taps worldwide, you'll see it's extremely poor. Many municipalities chlorinate and fluoridate their water, not to mention the gunk that gets trapped in old municipal water pipes. Also the other things that end up in the water supply. I was speaking with the director of the Global Water Stewardship Program at Lund University in Sweden, and this is 15 years ago, and he is basically saying they don't even test for the birth control, the pesticides, the crap that ends up in the water supply. And even though Sweden has very high standards, we get the crap from the rest of Europe that just flows here through the underground aquifer systems. So if that was happening in Sweden, you can be assured in Canada and the US, it's a very similar story. As a groundwater engineer, I can tell you they do not test for everything. They only test for a certain limited range of things when they're actually doing water supply testing. And there's a lot of harmful things that don't even get examined. So they could very well be in your water supply without anyone knowing it. But if you try the things in this video today, I assure you, you're going to take control of your water. You're going to take control of your health. And the long-term benefits of doing this will revolutionize your life. They will increase your awareness, your electricity, your bioelectricity. And of course, you're going to experience better health by doing this. Be sure to stick around to the end of this video, because in addition to all the amazing information I'm about to share, I also have a very special surprise for you. 2 surprises, in fact. I want to also invite you out to actually try this with me on a special solstice online event, which I'll tell you about soon. But anyway, for now, let's just dive in. So my story with water began in my early 20s when I went to the University of British Columbia and I studied geological engineering, specializing in what's called hydrogeology and geochemistry. So that basically has to do with groundwater. Groundwater, of course, is used for water supply. It's the water that ends up in rivers, in the ocean. So groundwater is extremely important. Most of the water, in the world comes from groundwater, believe it or not. We're not drinking ocean water most places, unless you're got some sort of a mountain reservoir, or not drinking rainwater. So groundwater is a very important form of water. And as a result of that, it gets very influenced by, the stuff that we're doing at surface. It also gets influenced by the geological matrix that it's in. So whether that is bedrock, whether that is various soils, they do impact the water. And so when I was working as a hydrogeologist professionally, and I did that for 12 years, I had the opportunity to visit northern Canada, all sorts of sites over Western Canada. I went down to Peru and did groundwater studies there, Australia, Arizona. So I've traveled the world, and I've been, seeing different communities and municipalities in an international setting. So I have a very large set of experience for this. And one thing I noticed along the way was the communities with people who are bright, vibrant, and there's a huge art scene, and the local politics were, more harmonious, you could say, and people were happy and living longer. Those ones generally had the better water qualities, and they also didn't add, as many of the harmful treatment chemicals to their water. Specifically talking about one that is, you hear about a lot these days. And then on the other end of the spectrum, people with very poor water quality, they often had higher rates of crime, more depression, lower life expectancy, more backups at the local hospital. So immediately I said, water is not only connected with health, but it's also connected with one's consciousness. And so that's when I began in my mid-20s, began to experiment with enhancing my water. And at first, I just basically did the first couple steps of this 6-step process, because that was what I could see scientifically. I said, if your water is pure and it's got the right mineral balance in it, it's going to be very good for your health. And so for many years, I just did the first 2 steps, and they gave me more benefits than, I could imagine. Now when I add steps 3 through 6, this takes things to a whole new level. And like I was saying earlier too, there's a lot of shortfalls with our, conventional water testing. We only test for a very limited range of biological pathogens, colloidal particles that are harmful, heavy metals, etc. But there's always going to be fecal coliforms. And if you know what that is, it's our human excrement in water. There's always going to be counts of that getting in water, and there's an acceptable limit for drinking water. I wouldn't say there's any acceptable amount of fecal coliforms that we should be drinking, but of course they have to be realistic about that. Not to mention too that the distribution systems, these pipes are aging, and they've stored, at different points in time, all sorts of gunk that get redissolved and reabsorbed into the water that passes through the pipes. Not to mention that there's forever chemicals, the stuff that gets used at dry cleaners and military bases, they don't even test for, that may be in your water harming you. Not to mention pharmaceuticals. A lot of these water quality standards that they use were developed before a lot of these pharmaceutical drugs were created. And it's just impractical to be testing for this many things. I mean, you could have a $10,000 water test versus a $200 water test. And it's just not realistic for municipalities to be dealing with this. So we have to take matters back into our own hands, because the way that our society's set up, they're not going to be doing this for us. It's not a conspiracy. They can't with the setup that we currently have. So I definitely think we need a new model. But until then, it's up to us to create our own model, and to, not just blame, to actually take responsibility back into our own hands. Later in my career, of course, I came across Dr. Emoto's work, and Dr. Emoto's work was basically saying that, if you take this glass of water and you put the word love on it, or you send it loving intentions, you can freeze it, and you can look at the ice crystals, and you can actually see there's a harmonious set of ice crystals. Similarly, if I play heavy metal or aggressive rap music to this water, and I yell at it, and I project hate towards it, it's going to have a very disharmonious crystal structure. Now, the interesting thing about this is That crystal structure, it's sort of at the interface of a liquid and a solid. So it's actually in a fourth state of matter or a plasmic state of matter. And our cells are plasmic in nature. You talk about blood plasma, for instance. It's a very common scientific term. But plasma is neither a liquid nor a solid, but that's how our cells respond. So we need to actually communicate with the water we're drinking on a plasmic level to the cells to hydrate them. So if our plasma is not right in the water that we're drinking, then it's not going to be a benefit to the cells of the body. So that's where we see and we can test the plasma is through ice crystallography, which is a fun little thing. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we do that in this video, of course. So as I progressed, I got deeper into the actual enhancement of water. And this is after I left my career and started doing what I do now. So I've talked to a lot of people. I've spent a lot of time doing research. And I must say that too, that this is still a work in progress for me. So if I put out a video like this in 6 months or a year, it's likely it will have updated information. But already I can tell you, I've done plenty of shootouts with different forms of water. People love the water that I've created. It's, I've been drinking it for years and it's given me tons of health benefits, even though sometimes my diet hasn't been great. I've got stress in my life or whatever. The water's sort of been a constant that's always kept my immune system working well, my skin looking good. And it's kept me vitalized and clear, clear with my consciousness. So it should be used. It's not like a Band-Aid for, a poor lifestyle, but it definitely contributes massively to our health, even if some areas of life are not fully where we want them to be. So some of the benefits that I've noticed, both of myself and the research I've done and with, talking to other people, is clearer skin is one that's, really important. Like I said, I'm over the age of 40 and my skin, I have good skin, and I didn't always grow up with good skin. I used to have very bad acne, lots of wrinkles, that type of thing, even in my 20s. So water has definitely helped me to have clear skin because you increase your bioelectricity when you're actually hydrated. This is the thing. We don't actually get hydrated drinking normal water. And this is one thing I really want to impart to you. Normal water does not speak to your cells in a way that causes them to be hydrated because it doesn't speak plasmically. It doesn't speak electrochemically to the cells. It just is speaking at a purely physical level. And even if you have clean water, it's still not doing the things that we hope. It's still not hydrating us. So anyway, clearer mind, being able to think abstractly, being able to problem solve, being able to envision what you want to do, being able to see your purpose and go for it. Water can do that, believe it or not, the right kind of water. Having more energy because you're more hydrated. It has, disease fighting capabilities as well from being hydrated. Not to mention, massive anti-inflammatory properties. It encodes the body with the frequency of your intention to actually give you greater manifestation potentials. And this is what we're going to be exploring in a workshop I'm going to tell you about at the end, where we're going to be using a quantum meditation technique that I use to manifest the house that I live in now on this amazing plot of land in the rainforest of Vancouver Island. I use this technique along with the water to get here. And so it's a two-part thing. We do a quantum meditation, and then I show you how to enhance the water. We do it as a group. You can do it online, which is the cool part. So it's going to be a lot of fun, and you're going to get to see that if you choose with this workshop. But anyway, moving on, of course, the last one here is the taste. This water tastes awesome. That's the thing that people notice is they take a sip and they're like, oh, yeah, it tastes smooth and almost creamy. It's really, really, really delicious to drink. So you can drink large quantities of it very easily, and therefore you're encouraged to stay hydrated. And if you struggle to drink water, this is a very easy way to do so. And the best part about all of this is it's just so easy to do. It's so easy to get started with this. And it only takes a tiny little bit of effort to get started. And that once it's done, you'll set yourself up with a passive system that just makes you feel better and better, improves your health, improves your consciousness. And you can get started for as little as like $50 with this. I'm not kidding. Gone are the days of needing a $5,000 water machine. I can tell you there's a couple of them floating out there. I'm not going to name names, but you're mostly paying for the marketing and the sales team, the office staff, because some of these devices are made of $200 or $300 worth of parts, and then it's just marketing after that. There's now this whole thing with network marketing or affiliate marketing for water treatment products. And, when you see people bragging about how much money they're making off of selling the water things and getting other people into the network, you ask, well, if there's that much profit margin, like when I'm buying one of these, am I just basically paying for people to go and have a lifestyle? So yeah, that's a little bit of an aside, but it just kind of is something that, I've noticed about some water products is the price tag on them is often $5,000 or $6,000 or $7,000, sometimes even $10,000 or $12,000, and the quality isn't even as good as what I can achieve for under $800. So just letting you know that a high price tag and great marketing does not mean good water. I still have yet to do a bit of a comparison test. I want to run it through some of my criteria, some of these different types of water that come from some of these expensive machines versus my own, and actually just present to you guys very factually what the results are, because I have a inkling that the water that I'm going to talk about in this video will outperform a lot of the machines on the market. It does take a little bit of extra work. It is something you assemble yourself, but through the process you learn, and you actually get to take pride that you know what you're doing. And part of this is education. So that's really, I'm going to share with you the process. I'm going to share with you my line of thinking and rationalization for this so that you can understand. So what is this process? Well, before I dive in, I should mention that my professional experience was in water treatment and mineralization, and that is the two first steps of this that are also the most important. So these are the foundation. If you do not have these in place, don't even bother with the other ones. You need to get the water purified. You need to get it back to an H2O state, and you need to have control over its remineralization. That'll also be the biggest needle movers in the water that you're going to be drinking. So before you do any of the fancy stuff, you just need purified water and with the right mineral balance. Both of those are equally important. I would not just drink purified water for reasons that I'm going to discuss in a couple minutes here. And I also want to say that, the later steps, so steps 3 through 6, I'm still kind of figuring out, the best ways to do these. Step 3, I've kind of got that one figured out. So it's really steps 4 through 6, which are the fancy kind of icings on the cake that I'll figure out, more things over time, quite likely. And, that I'll be able to share with you guys. But I'm quite confident after the number of blind studies that I've done sampling this water with myself and having little water parties at my house, that it will hold its weight. And the feedback I've gotten from people is excellent. I have people asking me for this, for me to make them, this water because, people in the neighborhood and that type of thing. And they're really lucky that they get to be drinking such high quality water just because they live close to me. So it's funny because even people have said that they prefer this recipe of water than the water that they go and they collect from pristine springs. And like I was saying before, pristine springs these days, unfortunately, because of the amount of environmental stressors that we have and the amount of nuclear weapons testing that's been done that has, Chernobyl as well. There's radionuclides in all of the world's water. What's coming in our rain from our skies. Pristine springs aren't at what they once were. So basically the 6 steps in this process are filtration, remineralization, structuring, frequency enhancement, hydrogenization, and finally, intention. And so I'm going to walk through each of these step by step so you have a better understanding of what goes into each of them. So step 1, filtration, is the most important. You need purified water. And I should also include here, it's not just filtration, it could be distillation too. The two things that I've really gravitated towards is either you can get a countertop distiller, which is going to cost you about $200, and it's about a gallon or 4 liters in volume. And basically what it does is it vaporizes the water, it collects it on the top, and it kind of comes out the other end into a collection container that's glass, which is great. So it doesn't touch any plastic really, except for a little bit on the nozzle, but everything else is inside is metal and the container is actually glass. And what that does is boils the water, and because the melting point of a lot of the dissolved solids that are potentially toxic or harmful are much higher than that they stay as a solid and they collect on the bottom of the distiller. And so when you actually open it up afterwards and you take a look at the gunk in your distiller, you're like, ew, I'm drinking that. So if anyone ever says to you, oh, tap water's fine, you know, some of these skeptics, these rationalists are like, yeah, well, tap water's fine for you. And you just say, look at this. Do you want this brown gunk in your system? Do you think that's good for you? I mean, they have to be in a real state of cognitive dissonance to be like, yeah, that's fine. Because I look at that and I go, that sludge is just like, you know, reminds me of like when you haven't changed your oil in your vehicle and you've been like driving it for 20,000 kilometers and it's like all gunky and, you know, there's little floaty black stuff in there that you don't want. It's not good. It's gunk in the system. So distillers, you have to clean them regularly. They're quite a bit of maintenance. They only produce 4 liters at a time. They get really good water and it's inexpensive to do, but it takes a little bit of work. On the other hand, what I've really liked is you can get under the sink 3-stage or 5-stage filters, which can be really good. But actually what I've done is I found a guy here in Victoria, Canada, who's got this called Ultimate Water. And I'm going to do a video with this guy, an interview, and I'm going to actually show you his setup. But he's got basically the best water filtration. It's pure H2O. In fact, he has analytic labs that need like pure water to run tests and stuff. He gets them as his clients because his water is so pure. So he basically gives you pure H2O, and there's nothing dissolved in the water, which is fantastic. So yes, he's got a way that will remove everything from the water. And this is really what we want to work with. So when we're recreating these living waters, we have the most control and flexibility when we're starting out with pure water with nothing in it at all. Then we can work our magic well. Now, it's very important whether you distill it or whether you strip it back through, you know, this 5-step process or reverse osmosis or UV treatment, that you make sure it's remineralized. And so otherwise, water will act as a solvent and you'll drink it and it will strip out essential minerals from your body, which is very bad. You don't want that. That'll take out the things you need. It'll make you tired. It'll make you fatigued. It'll make you minerally deficient. So you want to add minerals back in. Now, most water, let's say if you're on bore water, like well water, they'll have a good mineral content to them, but these minerals will be zero charge. And what I have always liked is negatively charged ions. So they're called ionic trace minerals. And ionic trace minerals, basically, when they're negatively charged, they electrochemically are able to interface with our cells a lot better. So they create more hydration. Step 1. Step 2 is they bind with positively charged toxins in the body and they pull them out. So it creates actually a detoxifying effect when you get these ionically charged trace minerals. Plus, they're essential minerals. So calcium, magnesium, or zinc are the 3 that you definitely want to be having in your water. The brand that I use is called Concentrace. I've used them for 20 years. Now I think they're just called Trace. It's about $40 Canadian, 45 Canadian for a 4 to 6 month supply of Trace. And in the US, it would be like $30. And you just put a couple drops in and you'll immediately notice the taste, but your water will basically be mineralized. It'll be mineralized with a whole suite of trace minerals, but most importantly, calcium, magnesium, and zinc. And their source, I believe, is the Great Salt Lake in Utah. When I was in South Africa, we found another source of trace minerals as well that was equally, I'm not sure equally as good, but it was also very good. And we used that. If you don't have access to them, let's say you live in a place where you can't get concentrates, you're also good to put a pinch of sea salt in your water as well. That can be very helpful, but you want to have those minerals added back into your water. That is non-negotiable. Otherwise, it will act as a solvent and it will be stripping out essential things. The other thing too is the later steps that we're going to be talking about, they just won't be possible because your water won't have the electrical conductivity to actually get frequency enhanced. You know, if you think about it, pure water is a good insulator, meaning that electricity can't travel free, nothing can travel through it. It's not transmissive. Whereas water with total dissolved solids in it of mineral in nature actually becomes a very good conductor. So I just thought I'd say that. So that's remineralization. The third step that you can do is water structuring. And so I'm going to kind of take a little pause after structuring and just explain, if anybody's traveling or they want to get started quickly, I'm just going to give them a really good way to do so, because I had a couple of requests for that. But structuring is basically where you take advantage of the polar nature of water, so the alignment of the actual molecule. The other thing about structuring is this is where you affect it on that plasmic level. So you're adding basically the right plasmic structure into the water that allows it to communicate with your cells and hydrate them properly. So structured water is where it becomes more hydrating. You'll notice a taste with structured water almost immediately. Now, structured water, to get it, all you need to do is spin water in a vortex. So for that, I use the Mayu vorticizer, and it basically runs with a little magnet in the bottom that spins, and it looks really nice. It looks kind of spa-like, and it creates this mesmerizing vortex. 10 minutes of that and your water is perfectly structured. The other thing that's great about the vortex is it dissolves, concentrates, it dissolves the salts that I put in, so I don't have to do any sort of manual stirring or anything like that. There are a number of different devices out there that can do this. Some are mechanical, some you just run through like a water course, like a sort of like a track, and the water gets structured. But this one I found that I really liked, and I really love the taste of this one. It was about $200 US for the Mayu. But there's a lot of other vorticizers out on the market that will basically do the job similarly for you. If you don't have a vorticizer or you're traveling, and this is where I'm going to take a little break, you can also go and take like a cucumber, you can take lemon, and you can squeeze it in, because fruit and vegetables that are grown and exposed to sunlight, the fibers in the fruit and the vegetables actually structure the water for you, the water in the fruit or the cucumber. So when you put it in your water, that diffuses into your water. So that's really cool. So if you're on a budget, what I recommend doing is getting a 4-liter container. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil, but you're probably going to have to get it plastic. Plastic does contain BPAs. So I would go for a higher density plastic that is less likely to leach it. If you can, you can't really travel with glass, and metal would likely be too heavy. I used to travel with two big 2-liter metal containers. That's what I used to do. And with the setup I use right now and the water that I'm collecting, I do collect it in these 18-liter jugs. That's not ideal. In the future, I'm going to be looking for a better storage solution. But anyway, get a container, go to the best water place you can find. I do not recommend grocery stores. I don't think they always check, even though they might have a reverse osmosis unit. I don't think they do maintenance properly at grocery stores. I would go to an actual proper water store where that's what they specialize in. You can fill up your water there. You can fill up that for like $1 probably. And then you remineralize it either with a little bit of sea salt or trace. And then you squeeze a little bit of lemon into the water, or put a little bit of cucumber in your water, and you've got excellent water. And this is really a great foundation for anyone, and it will hardly cost you anything. And now you're already starting to outperform some of these fancy water units just by doing that. If you have a Mayu, you can't really travel with it that easily. If you have a structuring device, great. But this is a really easy way to get started, very inexpensive, or an easy way to do it while you're traveling. The next 3 stages are frequency enhancement, hydrogenization, and intention. This is the fancy stuff. Other than intention's pretty straightforward to do. But frequency enhancement is, if you think about it, water contains information. And when you frequency enhance it, you actually imprint it with information that you then take into the cells of your body. And a funny story here was, we were playing around with this, and we had a speaker playing some of Vanessa's music where she was singing into the water. And people often said, "Oh, Vanessa, your voice, you sound like you have the voice of an angel." When we played her music into the water and we did an ice crystal analysis, you can take a look here, you can actually see an angel in the ice crystal, which is super cool. It's not smoking gun proof, but it's really uncanny. It's really coincidental. And so that's being imprinted on the cells of your body as you're drinking it. Now, I do have to say, putting a speaker to water isn't ideal. for a number of reasons. One is, Bluetooth interference, obviously. Another one, though, is the fidelity of the actual audio file is probably going to be WAV or MP3, and WAV at best is going to be, 44,100 hertz, and 44,100 hertz is a digital signal versus an analog, meaning that it's just sampled 44,100 times per second versus being a pure continual sound wave. So what I actually really like to do is take a tuning fork and reverberate the tuning fork through the water. We have a really nice set of the cosmic octaves. So we've got all the planets, we've got various stars, lunar nodes, etc. in this amazing series of tuning forks. And it also allows me to get all of the trifecta placement, so I can create trifecta water, meaning that if there's an issue with the core wound, which is Chiron, you put that in the water, you're meditating, you're shifting your relationship with your collective wound, and then you drink the water at the end, and it's literally imprinting the cells of your body. So it's physical reinforcement for the internal work that you're doing. So this is a really powerful way to work with drinking water to actually actualize your potential. And so there's going to be more on this. I won't talk about it too much right now, but I thought I'd just drop that there. So with this planetary series, you could basically drink your life path water. If you want to figure out what your purpose is, you hit 136.1 hertz, you put it on the water, and it vibrates for 3 minutes. That's all it takes. And then you go and just subtly notice how your perception begins to change. So frequency enhancement is really good, but again, you need a high mineral content in your water, I guess higher than 0. So you can't do this with pure distilled water. You do have to remineralize it, because that's what actually creates the conductivity. So the frequency enhancement is how you actually encode the information into the water. And so now your water has been structured in frequency enhanced. And this is, again, adding to that plasmic layer of the water. So your cells operate with plasma. So to hydrate the cells, to actually speak to the cells, you have to speak plasmically. It's like, otherwise, if you just try to do it chemically, it's like you're not speaking their language. You're not getting to the cells. To get to that fundamental level of the being, you have to work with this fourth state of matter, which is plasma. So if you get your plasma harmonically tuned, it's going to have a very beneficial effect than if you have not on your cells. So the fifth stage here is hydrogenization. There's thousands of peer-reviewed studies on hydrogen water. And you might think, well, there's already, somebody said, well, there's already hydrogen in water, Dave. Like, that's pretty stupid. And I said to them, yeah, but, there's already oxygen in water too. But then there's something called tritium, where you add another oxygen molecule to the water, and lo and behold, it's a different substance altogether. So when you add more hydrogen, free hydrogen, into H2O, you're actually changing the balance of hydrogen and oxygen. You're increasing that ratio of hydrogen in your water, and it's been shown to have very beneficial effects. It's mostly, a lot of studies were done with athletes to show athletic performance and recovery, but it's also very anti-inflammatory. It's very energizing. It's extremely hydrating. It actually increases your hydration uptake. So it also contributes to this fourth state of matter, the plasmic health, you could say, of your water by hydrogenating it. And this too, I knew that it was good the other day when I had a heartburn. And like my chest was burning, and I didn't have any antacid because I never get heartburn. But I went and I drank this hydrogen water, and within 2 minutes it was gone. It was just like, oh, I feel so good. So that told me there, because heartburn, of course, is an acid reflux. I must have eaten something. I think I ate some really spicy Indian food, got an acid reflux, and then drank the hydrogen water, and it completely got rid of it. It's not alkaline water. I don't recommend alkaline water, by the way, because that will neutralize your stomach acid. But it's extremely anti-inflammatory. And I just feel high when I drink hydrogen water. I feel really good, even drinking a small amount. The problem with hydrogen is that it doesn't stay in the water too long. It off-gasses pretty quickly. So it's important that you hydrogenate it and then you drink it right away. And for this, I will also say that there's a lot of hydrogenizer devices out there, and a lot of them are really crappy and actually toxic. So don't just go into Amazon and get any old one. The best one I found in the under $300 range is the Echo Go Plus. That's the one that I use right now. In the future, I plan to try out some of the more fancy high-end ones and compare them. My understanding is that the process of actually hydrogenating is more pure, and that they get a higher parts per million, so a higher concentration of hydrogen in the water. I'll report back to you guys once I do test some of these other ones. I have the Lume Vitae on my radar. There's also a brand, I think it's out of Australia, that does like 4 liters at a time. It's several $1,000s for that unit. So I'll have to be pretty committed if I go down that route. But anyway, so that's hydrogenization, which is the 5th step. And the 6th step is really easy. It's your intention. And with your intention, Dr. Emoto proved that, when he froze the water that had been subjected to various forms of intention, that the ice crystals responded in kind. So when he took the word love, he wrote it on a water vessel, and he put his intention of love into it. It was a very harmonic ice crystal. When he used the word hate, and he kind of sent hateful vibes towards the water, it formed a very disharmonious pattern in the water. And again, that's talking about, ice crystals are sort of between the liquid and the solid. So that's kind of indicating what's happening at a plasmic level as close as we can sort of get in a very simple rudimentary test. So your intention actually matters a lot. And one thing that I do is I actually put various symbols on my water bottle. So this one here is sacred geometry, which encodes the water in a certain way. And then this one here it looks like a fingerprint, but it's actually this advanced encoding technology. So this one here is about fluidity and mobility. So every time that I drink this water, the vessel's been encoded with more fluidity. It's just something that I'm working with. It's technology, I think, out of Ontario. They have about 24 different sequences or different patterns. They all kind of look similar with these fingerprints. Also too, I do hold my water and I say a little prayer. I say may this help me find, truth and health and good times. And then I'll hold it, close my eyes, feel it, take a sip. And the good times, they just start to roll. So yeah, those are the 6 steps in a row. Whatever ones you can do are going to be great, as long as you're doing steps 1 and 2. Step 3 isn't hard to do if you've got extra lemon or some cucumber, preferably organic. Steps 4, 5, and 6 are, where things get really fun, but they're a little bit more fancy. If you have to just use a speaker, you can. I'd recommend a tuning fork or some sort of analog device. At the end of the day, I hope you found this video useful, and I also want to offer you a free gift to help you with your water journey. But before that, I have a very special solstice ceremony that I'm putting on. That's upcoming. You can read about it in the description below. Here in December 2024 to close off the year. And this is to basically help you make 2025 the year where you find your spiritual home and you really land in that place. My team's been, or my community, I should say, has been working with astrocartography. I've been teaching lots of techniques, but this is the one that's the pinnacle of my work. So in this solstice ceremony, we're going to use a very special quantum meditation / manifestation technique. And we're also going to combine that with using the water with intention. So it's going to be a practical way to use this water. And this is the technique that I used that allowed me to live where I do now. It's basically brought me to my sun IC line in the most ideal environment myself. Even though I was halfway around the world when I discovered this, I could see the place clearly and somehow just managed to end up here on the flow of life using this approach. So I only later confirmed with astrocartography once I'd already signed the contract to come here that it was on my sun line. And I was just like, I'm blown away by this. This is super cool. And then the more that I looked into it from a astrological perspective, the more I saw that this was an ideal place. And this would definitely be a place that I should choose. So by you don't want to miss this workshop, because this technique is going to be one that it will get things going in your life in ways that you can hardly expect. Plus, it'll incorporate the water as well. And this is the first time I'm really demoing or teaching anything that has to do with using water in this way. So it's a very, very powerful process, and it takes a little bit of what I learned from the water ceremonies in Bali, the sort of the quantum nature of those, and brings it here for everybody to use. It'll be online. So if you're watching this after December 21st as well, you just know that there will be a replay available for purchase. But if you get in before, it's going to be a pay what you want event. Plus, I'll be there and we'll be able to hang out personally. And now for your free gift is I've put all 6 of these steps that I talked about in this video into a simple PDF with a little bit more background for each of these. So the link is in the description below to go download that. And then I've got some products links that I've talked about in this video too, if you wanted to check out those products, or you can of course do your own research. But remember that not all these are made equally, and that I've spent a lot of time finding the ones for the right price that I can recommend. So download this now. Get start enhancing your water today. I'll hopefully see you at the workshop, and thanks for watching this video. So make sure you like, subscribe to the channel, and share this with your friends and family if you found this information to be useful. And just know that I've got some really, really, really amazing things coming in 2025 for my viewers, for my community, for everybody. It's going to be bigger than anything I've ever imagined. It's not just going to be online anymore. We're going to be doing things physically in person. And it's going to be really centered around building the culture of New Earth. And part of that, the biggest part of that, is health, well-being, and spiritual alignment. So I hope you enjoyed this. Take care. Leave some comments below for me. I'll see you at the workshop. Grab that PDF, and we'll check in again soon. Bye-bye.